Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I haven't used a microphone in a long time, so tell me if anything's wrong. I have two. But yes, hi, my name's Shea. I currently am a brand partnerships manager at TikTok. I graduated APU in 2017. I'm so excited to be back. So honored y'all asked me to come say hi. I had the best time on campus today hanging out a little bit. So I'm gonna share a little bit about myself, and then I have 10 tools to kickstart your career, which is pretty much just what I've learned the last few years as I've started my career, and I loved APU so much. I wanna come give you as much of a leg up as you can as you enter and start on your career. So I'll share those with you. I have some book recommendations, and then I wanna save time for Q&A. So we're saving a lot of time for Q&A, so please have questions. And then also if you have any questions in between, super casual, jump in. I might question check with you throughout. Feel free to jump in. Cool? Okay, sweet. So a bit about me. We'll start with work professionally. On the left, this is where I am right now. So this was my first day at TikTok on Zoom, first day in the office and my team. I'm on the health and wellness partnerships team. So that means I work with health and wellness brands in the health space. So that's the medical health space, and then also the more wellness space, like Cocoa Floss and all those brands you see on TikTok. And it's super fun. I love it. My favorite part of my job is the consultative side with brands, getting to work with a ton of different brands. I've had other jobs where it's with one brand, and I just love getting to work with a bunch throughout the day and hear their different strategies and ideas and plans. So it's a blast. And then on the right, on a personal side, this is my family and my boyfriend and a few other things about me. I go to Vintage Church in Santa Monica. When I was here, I went to Fellowship. Ooh, go Fellowship. Fellowship, yes. And also in my free time, I like painting, and I'm very into musical theater. This is my time at APU. So this is me right outside Wilden when I graduated. The two main things I did here that I was involved in was Enactus. I heard we recently revamped Enactus, and I was so excited to hear. I worked on a project called Project Cultivate, and it was with an anti-human trafficking project, working with professional development, women coming out of human trafficking and needing professional development resources. Loved it. I could talk to you about it for hours if you want to jump in. If you want to jump into that at all. And then I also was our yearbook editor-in-chief. APU doesn't have a yearbook right now, but we did. And you guys should get one again, start a petition. But, and I adored that too, because I had done yearbook in high school and then college, and then it actually got me my first job out of college. So I loved my time at APU, the Turtle Pond, the Alpha stuff, roommates, the Mexico trips, all the things. I very much took advantage of all APU had going for it. So to jump in to my first tip. So the 10 tools. So first one, and it kind of just comes right out of that APU slide, being a good steward of what's in front of you. So truly going into the workforce, the best thing you can do is be a good steward of what's in front of you. That could pertain to APU right now. It can pertain to your internship, your first job. When I first graduated, my first job, I was a yearbook rep, which is not a glamorous job. I got asked to do it because I was doing yearbook here, and that pretty much meant that I went school to school and I helped different schools and yearbook classes make their yearbooks. And I had a blast doing it because it was fun, but I definitely was like, how does this pertain to this marketing degree that I got, and wanting to work with brands and have, a fun, interesting marketing job. But I had gotten really great wisdom and advice to be a good steward of what was in front of me. So I looked for what I enjoyed about the job. I looked for what was fun. I looked for what was fruitful. I looked for the parts that did have a thread that connected to the marketing jobs I was interested in and leaned into those. Or same like at AP right now, I'm sure a lot of you are in clubs, you're working on papers, you have relationships with professors, you do group projects. The way that you do all of that now is going to connect to the way that you do things later, right? Like if you have a group project, the way that you work on that group project, the way you treat the other people, the way you, all of that, like that's gonna directly correlate later on. So I say like lean into that as much as you can. And if you're ever like, oh, how does this pertain, that like this doesn't relate? I promise it does in some way. You just gotta find it, right? Number 2, so this is a very mix of soft skills and hard skill presentation, so bounce with me. Second one is learn to be data driven. So this is huge. This is specific to business and marketing, learning to tell stories with data. So an example I want to share with y'all, like a very common internship I know people in business get is like working on a social media account. A lot of us end up doing that at one point. It seems like I've done that. And an example would be if someone says, okay, hey, it's been a week, like, how is the account looking? And you say, oh, it's looking good. We've like got more people engaged. That's not data driven. That's not gonna get you very far. You wanna have a story to tell with data. So to be able to say our comments last week, we were getting about 10 comments per post. We were getting about 100 likes per post. But then I implemented this campaign idea. I started posting every other day, and it was photos that I took around campus. Then our engagement, our comments, our whatever, went up by 20%. And then that's a data-driven story, right? Or using data to back yourself up. Say your boss is really into the comments, like how many comments do we have this week? How many comments do we have next week? How many comments do we have? And say they're going down, say it's not good. Can you go find other data to show the value you're bringing? You can say, okay, our comments have gone down 20%, but our followers have doubled. Or our comments have gone down, but our likes have tripled or something, you know? So you can like use data to tell the story you want to tell. Does that make sense? Cool. That's a really big one. This is really important. Okay, 2, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I obviously stole this from someone, I didn't make this up, but it's such a good phrase. So this means like do what you need to do now, even if the opportunity is not in front of you, because when the opportunity comes, you don't want to miss it. So the example here is, so I started at TikTok in March. Prior to that, I was working at a marketing company for 3 years, and it was fun. I really liked it. It's called Golden Hippo, cool company. But I was like, oh, I think I might want to do something else next. So I started I was looking at like TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest. I wanted to work at one of the platforms, but I saw that you needed a lot of media buying experience, which is like ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, so on. And my company had some connection to that, but I wasn't working on it a lot for my project. So for a few months, I looked at courses online. I started trying to get involved with projects at my current company about media buying, even though there weren't any open jobs or I hadn't really applied. But I was thinking, okay, let me like get ready now in advance so that when the moment comes, I'm ready. And then a moment came where I was talking to a friend who worked at TikTok, and he was like, oh yeah, this role's open, apply. And then I was like, oh, I can apply. And I am actually qualified because I've been doing this preparation for the last year. And you kind of just do the preparation, having faith in yourself, knowing that when I get there, I want to be able to take that opportunity. Cool. Microphone. Why did I want to get into platform marketing? Thank you so much. I had been working at this marketing company, so it was a digital marketing company called Golden Hippo, and they had multiple brands that they did digital marketing for. So like ads, website, made the product, everything. And I think I just saw that the most valuable part, at least with the brands I was working with, the most valuable part of the marketing mix was what the platforms was bringing, like the Facebook ads and TikTok ads were really driving the business. So I was like, ooh, that's where I want to be. Like, I just felt like that's kind of the direction that marketing was going as like a cool way to reach people and to like be more creative. So I wanted to go there, and they just seemed fun. It seemed fun. And then we did it, yeah.
Did your Enactus presentation practices get you ready for
Did my Enactus presentation practices get me ready for my career? So I wasn't on the presentation team. I was a project leader, but 200% being on Enactus helped prepare me for my career. I mean, like, no question. I made the joke earlier, did I go to AP or did I just do Enactus? Enactus was such a big part of all of this. Like, most of these 10 things I originally learned through experiences with Enactus. Like, I learned how to lead other people because I was a project leader. So our project had like 25 people on it. So we had a fundraising team, we had our presentation team, we had a team that was building this curriculum that we were doing with the women who were survivors of trafficking. We had a team setting up the meetings with the safe houses. Like, it was very intricate and very plugged in with the real world. And it taught me so much of what I needed, 100%. I talked about it in my interview for my first job and my second job. And in my second job, I had already had 2 years of my career done. Speaking of that, number 4, the best way to build confidence is to build skills and expertise, and not expertise, and experience in that area. So a pet peeve that I have is when people say like, oh, get more confident, feel empowered, be more confident. That's true and that's good, but truly, the best way to build confidence is to actually learn new things and to grow in your skill set, right? So if you're like, oh, I just got this internship, I'm gonna be helping this coffee shop with marketing. I'm really nervous, I am not confident. Okay, of course you're not confident. You haven't done it before, you might not know a lot about it. So the best way to prepare, I think, is to go maybe Google online what other coffee shops have done for marketing. What are some marketing tips that you can find online? What is some recent classwork you've done that could point you in the right direction for this experience? This kind of goes back to my story about preparing for my interview at TikTok for a long time. Like, I was very intimidated, yes, but also like I was missing some of the skill set for the role. So I had to go grow that skill set. Or now in the role, I work with some smaller brands and some bigger brands. When I work with the smaller brands, I feel a little more comfortable. When I work with the bigger brands, I might be a little bit less confident. And that's not, the answer is not for me to just be like, be more confident, right? The answer is to be like, okay, these bigger brands need more from me. They need more information about media buying, about campaign planning, about budget allocation, and I need to go learn this so that I can give them like the best answers possible. So I would say, like, don't let low confidence be like, oh, I have low confidence, I can't do that. Everyone, you should, like, we're gonna have low confidence if we don't know something, but that's okay, that should be encouraging, right? Like, you can go learn it and grow. The other thing I'll say on this, there's this interesting TED Talk, and it speaks on this fact of, this is kind of like a shout out to the difference between men and women. There is this study that shows when men are mentored, we'll start with the women. When women are mentored by men or women, the focus is on be empowered. How are you feeling? Are you getting along with your coworkers? How are your projects going? How do you feel? Okay? And then when men are mentored, they tend to get a conversation that goes more like, what's happening with the project? They might ask questions like, how do I get to the next level? How do I allocate this budget? How do I do this with the client? Do you have an example of what someone else has done? It's much more project focused. And that's not a hit on men or women. It's just a natural human thing. Men and women both do it when they're talking to people who are growing in their career, men or women. The point is, the men probably could use a little more of the soft skills, the conversations around how they're feeling. The women also, though, I would say, lean into those conversations that are more data-driven, project-focused. What can I do? Like, what are the details, the nitty-gritty of this project? Cool? That's been huge, especially as I've been assigned mentors in my different roles. It's been huge to like set the stage of what I want out of the mentorship. Like I want tactical skill guidance, not like fluff conversation about how I'm like feeling that day. Oh, this is a good one. Find ways to chill out in work settings. The coffee test is real, be human. Has anyone in here been here long enough to know the Strothers? No, that's okay. When I came here, I had a professor, Stu Strother. It's not the coffee test, it's called the beer test, but it also could be the coffee test. So what that means is that when someone meets you, consciously or unconsciously, they are doing the beer test, the coffee test, the hangout test, which pretty much means, could I hang out with you for an hour and enjoy myself? And that is just true. It's true in the workplace. It's like, maybe it shouldn't be that way, maybe it should, I don't know, but it is. So that just means chilling out and being human and getting to know people. The example of this that I'll share is when you're in an interview, where the opposite of this can happen, where you maybe don't pass the coffee test, is when you get into an interview and they say, hey, great to see you, how's your day? And you go, it's good, how are you? Right? Super awkward, but like what else do you say? Well, they just asked you how you're doing. So if you can say, oh my gosh, thanks for asking. I just actually went on a walk. It was so nice. The weather's great. And I'm so excited to be interviewing for this role. How are you? Chill, composed, calm, easy to talk to. So good, right? And that's really hard. That can feel like the last thing on your mind when you're going into a difficult interview, or if you're jumping onto a one-on-one with your boss, sitting down in a meeting. But if you can find ways to be human, if they told you last Friday that they were going to a game over the weekend, if on Monday you can remember to say, hey, good to see you, how was that game you went to over the weekend? That's huge, right? And you might think, oh, they're my boss, awkward. No, like especially if they're starting the conversation, maybe just keep an ear out for if they're opening that door and just like lean into it a little, right? Like if you hop on an interview and they say, hi, we're gonna jump right in. Okay, yeah, don't be like, okay, wait, let me ask you how your weekend was. But if they say, hey, how are you? It can really make you stand out to be able to say like, oh, thank you for asking. Like on my interview for TikTok, I knew that we all know TikTok's huge with creators. A part of my last job was working with creators. So when they said, how are you? I said, oh, I'm great. I just signed a contract with a creator I've really wanted for my one of my brands, and it made my day. And they went, oh, that's awesome. Cool. I went, yeah, thank you. How are you? And then he went, oh, my day's hard. I just got back from a trip to Hawaii. And I went, Hawaii? Oh my gosh, like you should have stayed there. And he goes, oh, I wish I did. Right? And now we've built this rapport at the beginning of the interview. Cool? Oh, I'll go back to this one. Every single one of the 9 points all relate to the first point of being a good steward of what you have now. So this applies to your group projects. This applies to your professors. This applies to like when you're just over at Chick-fil-A hanging out, right? Like don't wait to apply this for when there's like someone you're trying to suck up to. Like do it right now, right? Yeah. That builds character too. If people can tell if you're only doing it when you're like interested in getting something from them. That's not cool. People first, always. So this is really true. And I think this is especially true because for all of us in this room, this is something that I think we all get from APU. Other universities, like big universities, kind of like have a disadvantage here because they're not learning this. I feel like this is super ingrained in APU. So I would just lean into this. Like this is such a gift in the workplace if you can bring this, and when you genuinely get to know your coworkers and you genuinely care about people. So if everyone comes to a little group thing and someone's 15 minutes late, are you gonna be a little rude? Or are you gonna say, hey, is everything okay, right? I learned this the hard way multiple times, but one story I'll share is when I was editor-in-chief here, at APU for the yearbook, I had our editors had to give me stuff that I had to mark up. Like I was editing stories other people wrote. So I was like kind of their manager, but kind of not. And I had a gal who was super late one day to show up for her shift, and she hadn't written her things. And I gave her so much attitude. I was like, this was due, like, I was like, I'm in charge. Like, I'm gonna make sure she gets her work done. And of course, right, like very classic lesson. I didn't check on how she was doing. I asked her where her work was. I told her I was gonna mark off her hours. And she had, this awful story of what had happened that day, and it was true. And it was with her health and her family, and it was a very hard story. And I remembered that for a really long time, and I got to apply that later in life, but right, she needed to just be checked on. She needed to hear what was wrong. It was not important. Like most things in my job in marketing, nothing's ever actually an emergency, like so rarely. So just putting people first is so important. And later when I was at my last job at Golden Hippo, I was able to like fully be like, this is a black and white situation. I can do this differently. A gal who was reporting to me made a mistake. She did the thing where she sent an email with like a really wrong subject line to like tens of thousands of people. And thankfully I had professionally matured. I had learned, so much more about putting people first, more about like just the beard test, the chill thing, all of that. And I was able to say, hey, thank you for letting me know. It's okay. Like, we're gonna mess up. It's gonna happen. Let's just rework it. And then honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know if you know this, but if you send an email with the wrong subject line, it gets more higher open rate than anything else you'll ever send. So it all worked out. Get to the point and make sure it's the point that matters. This is really big. I really needed to work on this when I was at APU. I probably still work on this. But get to the point and make sure it's the point that matters. So I think like early on in our career, it can be really hard to do this because one of the hardest things to learn is what the point is of what you're presenting, either to your boss or to your customers or to an audience or whatever. But if you can figure out the point you're trying to make and get to it more quickly, it will really help you in the long run. I think an example here at APU would be if you have like a presentation coming up, you could spend 6 hours on a presentation, but if you kind of don't have the directions correct of what your professor's looking for, you could get like a C on it. It doesn't matter. You could do 20 amazing slides, but if it's not the assignment, it doesn't matter. The same thing's true like when I'm currently in my role presenting to brands. Like there's a ton of different presentations we can give. I would not give the same presentation to a like toothpaste brand that just launched last week and is trying to get new customers as I would to like Peloton that, is like a massive company who's trying to rebrand their name, right? Very different. So to find out the point, you need to ask questions, right? Follow-up questions, find out what you're working on so that when you email your boss, you can get to the point more quickly. When you make a presentation, you can get to the point more quickly. Okay, keep a pulse on industries you are interested in and how your current role, class, internship club, anything at all relates. It can be so easy to just get in a little bubble of what you're working on and not think about how it relates to the rest of the world. I'll give an example, Enactus, we were talking about this. When I talk about Enactus to other people, I had to learn to frame that in a way that they would understand, right? Because if I just say, I did Enactus in college, they're gonna be like, what is that? Like, it doesn't do a ton. But if I say I was a project leader for an entrepreneurship program, sick, now everyone knows what that is. Right? So reframing it to make it make sense to other people. In my last job, I ran our ambassador program. I applied to TikTok. TikTok does not use the word ambassador. They use the word creators. But they are pretty much the same thing. So as soon as I realized that, I stopped really using the word ambassador in my interviews and I started saying creator. I used to work with ambassadors and creators, and now the interviewer knows what I was talking about. So I would do that for sure on your resume, on your LinkedIn, and so on. That's on like a practical level. Also just big picture as you're trying to figure out what you want to do in your career. This can be really helpful too, right? Like what other entrepreneurship programs are going on at other colleges? What are other Enactus programs doing? What internships are there out there for a year from now? What sort of language like are they describing in their job description that I can learn what that means and maybe get those skills? What's going on in the news with companies, things like that. So just keeping a pulse on the bigger picture of the business world, the marketing world, all that. So helpful. Okay, bring your face to the workplace through your actions and character. So this is a big one. This is another one that like we here at APU are so lucky to get. I feel like so blessed to have a faith-based education to be able to bring to the workplace. And I mean, obviously just solely because that's what I believe, but it also has incredibly helped my career. Like every performance review that I get, it's always the characteristics that I attribute to my faith. I put a few on here. So these are things that like really stand out in the workplace and we kind of take for granted here in a place like this, like at APU. People are kind of living and breathing this, but when you can identify that this is a gift and a skill and like honestly holding on to these things in the workplace might be tricky because a lot of other people are like not valuing it or doing it, especially the gossiping one. The gossiping one's hard. A lot of people are just gossiping all around. So if you can like really hone in on these and build these now and then hold on to them in the workplace and stand by them, like grace, being prepared, like hard work, quality work. Like it doesn't just mean showing up and being this like soft Christian who's like talking about their faith all the time and like that's not what I mean. Like we are called to be good workers, hard workers, smart workers, and to like put our best foot forward. And when we can show up in the workplace doing that, I think that's like the best way we can represent Christ. And, you know, I'm not going around being like, I'm Christian, look at me, Like, I don't really talk about my faith a ton in the workplace, other than someone saying, what did you do this weekend? Like, I'll mention that I went to church. Or if someone's like, you know, I'll mention it. But people now kind of know I'm Christian. And I hope that when they see these things in my work, it's attributed back to my faith. So it's also just a way of like living on mission in the workplace without the traditional like pastor ministry role. Okay, this is my big one. This is my actually the most important thing, and it's writing good emails. I think this is something we lost. I feel like there should be a whole class on it in college, in my opinion, because it can make such a difference in your career. So I wrote 2 examples for us to look at. This is my example email. Dear Sarah, I hope you had a wonderful, I'll set the scene. Sarah is our boss, my boss in this scenario, and I've been asked to make a deck sharing performance of a social media campaign that I was in charge of. Dear Sarah, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I've been working on the social media project we talked about. I made a deck. Let me know what you think. Sorry it's so long. Happy to make any changes. I'm also running out of content, so I'm a little worried. I probably won't be able to post next week. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work on this. Let me know if you have any questions from Shea. This is like not that, I know a lot of us have probably sent emails similar to this, but it's not a great email. I will explain why. The fluff, I'll just call them out. There's fluff at the beginning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We don't need the fluff at the beginning. 2, I've been working on the social media project we talked about. I made a deck, let me know what you think. Sorry it's so long. We don't need to apologize for it being so long. Like you made the deck, you did the work. Either make it shorter if it's not supposed to be long, or it's okay that it's long, it was your job, right? Happy to make any changes. Of course you will make the changes, they're your boss. They'll tell you to make the changes if you need them, but we don't want to just say, happy to make any change, like, blah, blah, blah. And it's running on so much, it's so long. I'm also running out of content, I'm a little worried, I probably won't be able to post next week. It's just a problem with no solution. We're not helping Sarah out at all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work on this. Messy, so messy. Here's the better email. The better email is spaced out. It's not one run-on paragraph. We utilize formatting like bold. I love the bold feature, the underline feature, the italicized feature. It breaks up the content so the person can follow what you're saying. Also, the information here is so clear. Attached is a report you asked me to complete. This reminds your superior, like, why you're sending this email. They might have forgotten, you know? They have a lot going on. 3 main callouts. So now you're making it, even if they don't look at the deck, they know what you're saying. So like a clear call out, 1, 2, 3. And then the third one, we're running short on IG content. Why? Like explain why, give them a bit more context. Where do you want me to get this from? So just very clear, concise. I think the biggest thing is 1, breaking up your sentences in emails, and 2, using bold, italicize, and underline, and also getting your point across. Take out the fluff language. Like, take out the fluff language that's like, so sorry, so good to see you, so sorry, so happy to be doing this, da 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 da. It feels polite. But if you're doing a good job overall, like the slides before this about being a good steward and getting to the point, you don't need all the fluff of saying like how grateful you are. Like you can say how grateful you are at your performance review or in a separate thank you card if you want to do something separate, but like on your day-to-day interactions with your bosses or whatever, clean up the email. And then if you are a little like, okay, I do want to make sure I did this right because I am new, you can ask directly at the bottom, does this update cover everything you were looking for in these weekly reports? Or something like that. And that is my take on emails. These are my book recommendations. Measure What Matters is like the very business-focused book. So this is the one I recommend if you like really want to just get into the business of it. It's about OKRs, which is what they use at Google. It's pretty much about like setting goals and how to measure success. So I think this is like a really great book for the beginning of our career. Garden City is by John Mark Comer, and it's about like deciding what you want to do for your career. It's kind of under the idea of like, we always get told like, you are not what you do, it's who you are. Like, don't let what you do define you, but then we work like at least 40 hours a week. And so it doesn't really add up because work takes up a lot of our life. So it does make sense to kind of dig into it and see like what we're passionate about. To be honest, I'm only halfway through it. So it's like a half recommendation, but I feel like it's going to end strong. And then The Art of Gathering is my favorite book. It can be applied to personal life or the workplace or whatever, but it's about how to gather people well and intentionally and smartly, and I adore it. How we meet and why it matters. Honestly, I recommend that one the highest. And I think that's it. Before we get into Q&A, I'll say 2 things. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. As a best practice, I don't think anyone should add anyone on LinkedIn without a little message saying who you are or telling them something about yourself or connecting, and you now know so much about me. So you could find something that connects us, and I would say really do that for anyone you want to add on LinkedIn, like find a common factor and reach out. So yeah, if you send me a message saying something cool, I will accept your invite and would love to be your friend on LinkedIn. And I also have a little TikTok referral link that is good for, I think, ever. So I'm going to send that and it will go out to you some way. Or if you don't get it, you can ask me for it on LinkedIn. And I will give it to you. And as a fun fact on that, all of the big companies, like every big company, all the employees have referral codes. It costs us nothing to give them away. Like if you apply and you're the worst candidate ever, I don't lose anything by you applying. So you should always be so confident asking people for referral codes, especially like TikTok, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, every company I've ever worked. If you get the job, we get money. And if you don't get the job, we lose nothing. And that's the case for most companies. So I know it can be intimidating to ask for a referral link, but it helps us just as much as it helps you. So don't ever be nervous to ask for a referral link. I mean, be respectful, you know, and like kind and common interests or whatever. But pro tip, always go and ask for the link. And that is the end of what I have. And now we'll do Q&A. What have I enjoyed about being surrounded by creativity? At TikTok, the people? Ooh. I have really enjoyed that everyone comes from such different backgrounds. Like I'm in a brand partnerships role and there's probably like 50 brand partnership managers and we all have completely different backgrounds. We have someone who started at ByteDance, which is the parent company in China, and they moved over. We have people who started in sales. We have people who started in creative. We have people from so many different backgrounds. And there's just so much to learn. Like to sit down and hang out with people and hear their experiences is so cool and just very inspiring. Yeah, that's a good question. What's the key to success that I didn't put in the slides? I gave you my best ones in the slides. I would say learning how to position yourself. Like position yourself well as you apply for a job. Like I told you, my first job was the yearbook job. I remember being in that job and being like, well, how am I even gonna get my next job? I'm a yearbook rep. Like, how is that even relevant to any other career? And then I stepped back. I did that like industry exercise I told you guys about, like how does this fit into the industry? And I was like, oh, I'm in sales. I'm a sales manager. I'm an account manager. And then I was like, okay, I can do that. That'll help me find another job. And then I went and I applied for a job in marketing and just positioned myself as being in sales and really good at relationships and wanting to move into the digital side. Like I was like, oh, I'm in the publishing side, which is print, and I want to move into the digital side. But I'm already an expert in sales, negotiations, contracts, budgets. And I honestly kind of just left out the yearbook part. And no one even knows. To this day, I don't think anyone at TikTok knows I did anything with yearbooks. Because my resume says account manager, as is like everyone else who was in that job with me at that company. So when I came to TikTok, that's how I positioned myself. I said I started my career as an account manager in sales. I called out my wins. I was rookie of the year. I exceeded my quota every month. And then I moved into digital. I became an expert in digital marketing. And now I want to work at TikTok and combine my like consultative sales experience with my digital marketing experience. Whew, this one's real good. That's like kind of what I did, but like kind of not, right? Like it is what I did. But I also was a yearbook rep for 2 years, and then I ran an ambassador program at a small marketing company who did digital marketing. And I just found the key parts of it that were relevant. And the hard part is that I had to leave a lot off my resume that I had done that I knew they wouldn't care about. And that was really hard to be like, okay, Shea, don't talk about this like 70% of what you did. Talk about the 30% of above and beyond that you did that they'll care about. That would be my extra tip. The question was, how can I bridge what TikTok is, like what my perception was and what it actually is? My perception going into it was, I had friends who were in the same role at Facebook and Pinterest, and TikTok, I guess, but I hadn't talked to him as much. So I knew that the role would be like, okay, I'm working with clients to help them get started on TikTok, to be honest, I thought that it would be a bit more corporate. I was like, there's no way it's going to be as like fun and like simple as it is on the app. Like, I feel like it's going to be very different than the app. I thought it wasn't going to be very similar to the app. I thought it would be very account manager focused. And it wasn't. It's like truly, it's a really good example of, there's some speech that some famous person did that I can't remember their name, but they said something, Ashton Kutcher. It was Ashton Kutcher. I know Ashton Kutcher, I just couldn't remember if it was him. But he said something like, the secret to the world is that like, no one really knows that much more than you. It's something like that. That's kind of it. It's like everyone at TikTok is learning every day. We get reports in the morning that say like, here's what's trending today. Here's the sounds that are trending. Like, oh, here's a TikTok that like took off and did really well. Maybe your clients can use that to like help their own campaign. Like, it is constantly learning. I mean, I get a new like training video that I watch probably every day about new things coming out on the platform that businesses can use to show their products and stuff like that. So I think I thought the job was going to be more corporate, but it's actually more just kind of exactly what you'd expect. Like, we're working with creators to figure out what the next thing on the platform should be. And if someone has, when we sit in brand meetings, like sometimes the client has an idea of what to do for the video. Sometimes I have an idea. Sometimes my technical partner has an idea, and then they just try it and then they do it. And sometimes it takes off and goes viral, and sometimes it does really bad and we take it off and they make no money. And it's just always trial and error, which I think really just goes back to the whole being a good steward of what you have, because I think it's easy to be like, ugh, I'm working on this right now. If only I was in this other job where things always worked, it'd be so much easier. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff that doesn't work sometimes, a lot of times. Yeah. Oh, what's next? What a question. Well, I've been at TikTok since March, so it's still pretty fresh. Honestly, I feel like there's so much to learn in this role. I was just talking to my boss about that I really feel like what's next is learning more about the role and getting to do more. And like doing more fun things with my clients. Because like the more that I know, the more I can help them and have them try new things. Like, I'm sure you guys notice, like, or whoever's on TikTok, that there's always like new ways of using the platform. And then it's cool because some of the businesses are very big and like make a ton of money already, but other businesses are really small and they're like using TikTok to kind of take off. And so it's really cool getting to help them grow and all of that. So honestly, right now, I'm just super excited about what else I can do there. Yeah, graphic for people in my role, probably my age. I would say I'm like right in the middle. I'm 27. I look younger. Everyone thinks I'm younger. But I think most people are my age. And then my boss, the role above me, are more like late 30s. And then our BDMs, the role I talked about before, is like probably 23, 24. Yeah. I will say TikTok, I think, does a good job at hiring based on experience and culture fit, like soft skills, like your actual experience more than like age or years in a role. Like, there is a minimum year requirement of experience, but yeah, there's people in the role, I'd say everywhere from like 26, I think younger than me, up to probably like 35, all just with different backgrounds. Yeah, so cool. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and wrap. I just thank you all so much for your time. I know there's so many things you could be doing, and it was so fun to get to come speak to y'all. Add me on LinkedIn, and okay, thank you.